update a couple scenes.
Okay.
But we are, pre-show is live right now. Okay.
Oh, so in continuing our spousal food saga, I got a text from Maureen this morning that we need to go to Sonic, which is not news, because apparently they have a pickle juice slushie now.
Excuse me?
Sounds terrible.
Yeah.
This is a reason to go.
Apparently.
This is
These
a
are things you
driver.
learn after 20 years of marriage.
Sounds repulsive, but okay. You know, to each their own. I'm not a pickle fan generally, so a slushy of pickle juice just seems.
I mean, I do love a pickle. I don't love the.
I don't typically consider it a dessert or dessert adjacent item.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very pro pickle. Like, great with sandwiches. Great, like,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, great at delis. Great fried. You can get like
I'll
fried
go to
pickle
Ryan's.
chips. They're delicious.
I'll buy a bucket, right? Like I will do that, but the juice is not something that I'm interested in. But yeah,
I mean, I've done the pickleback thing with Jameson, and like it's fine. But I also just like Jameson. So like,
Yeah.
but this is, hey, you know what would be refreshing with your burger is cold sweet pickle slush.
Yeah. I mean, they've got like some sort of like a churro shake that I'm interested in. So.
A pickle churro or a regular churro?
No, it's not a. Oh
I don't know where the line is. I assumed the line was at frozen beverage, and I was wrong. So I'm just, you never know.
I mean, I'm not. There's obviously some demand because they're back.
This is a returning item.
Yeah, it says they're back in that picture I just sent you. They're back. It was there once before, and then like the McRib, it demand brought it back, or maybe like Morbius demand brought it back. I don't know.
That's quite the dichotomy. Yeah. You know, if you change the C in McRib to an O, and you remove the I, it spells Morb.
That's, you know what? I think you cracked the case.
If he said it's McRibbing time, if he said it's McRibbing time, that would have been an excellent tie-in opportunity.
You know, I'm surprised they missed that.
It's not even.
They should hire you.
Movie.
I could not have done a worse job than the people that wrote the movie Morbius. So maybe.
Well, fair. No, I'm thinking about McDonald's, not the Morbius people.
They are welcome to hire me anytime. I wouldn't be the president. I'd also be a customer.
Yeah.
I am testing my recording.
Are you a Big Mac guy or a Quarter Pounder guy?
Double Quarter Pounder with cheese.
Okay. Good.
I'm
Royale
not
with cheese.
Double Royale. Yes, I'm not. No bread.
That's a lot of...
I don't want extra bread. Like the Big Mac, you just put more bread in the middle. Why? I'm not going to McDonald's for the buns. I'm going for the patties. I want more of that.
I mean, I'm going because it's the only place that's within like a 10-minute drive, but also for the patties, yes.
For me, the only utility of those places was the dollar menu.
Mm.
Okay.
The crispy chicken sandwich was decent. There's in Burger King's.
You would get the dollar menu move is you get the McDouble and you get the spicy chicken sandwich and you smush them together.
I always just got 2 junior cheeseburgers.
Also high quality. What is this Celestalon tweet?
Oh, this was the quesadilla thing last night.
Oh, yes, that is.
Speaking of food.
Is that necessary?
Are we speaking of food?
I don't know. Apparently.
I don't think that's food.
I don't know if it's news either, so we've got a lot of questions.
Listen, news was unusually light this week, at least until this
I
morning.
don't know if I'd call this light.
Well, I mean, today they did a lot, right? But up until this morning, there wasn't a whole lot.
Okay, let's see. Oh, you're actually typing stuff. Sure, you can do that. What am I missing? I feel like I'm missing something. I have all this stuff. I know who the patrons are. This is open, so I have to look at that.
Oh, I
pickle
should
slush
open
again.
something with which to record my audio. That's
Yes,
a
that
good idea.
does seem good. Feel like something happened, but maybe not. Maybe that's not true. Okay.
Does anything ever really happen when you think about it?
That's deep.
I know.
Okay.
MC Kids, that's a deep cut. That's up
Oh
there with
man, that
with
is
the
old school.
with the 7-Up cool spot
Spot,
game for
cool
the
spot.
NES.
Yep.
And I think there was a Noid game too, wasn't there?
There was
must
at
have been.
least one. There might have been two.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was a multi-platform thing. I remember MC Kids. Like, I remember that game. Did I tweet? That's what I didn't do.
I mean, if we want to go all the way back and I want to just show all of my age, I remember the Kool-Aid Man game for the Atari 2600.
That
was a thing.
That I believe you.
There was also a game that Activision made early on where you were basically just brushing teeth. Like you were the toothbrush and you were defeating the monsters that were inside the mouth. It was a weird time. Yo Noid, that was the name of the game. Yes, Yo Noid.
Okay, I have tweeted. I have pinged. Oh, I had coin conceits I was going to write down too. Let's see here. There. Yeah, Pepsi Man. They've played the Pepsi Man at the Awful Block. I remember that in GDQ. Very funny to watch.
There's a really good Last Week Tonight short about food video games. That's like 5 minutes. No, it's maybe 10 minutes on YouTube. It is worth your time. I'll just say that.
Okay. I think I got everybody. All right. Hey, Dillacash, what's up? I think I got everybody I wanted to shout out, but I'm sure I'll think of more people.
Wait, the Nathrius is. Oh my god.
The keep rate is relatively low, but yes, it is the highest win rate for the Mulligan in Shaman.
I feel like you could interpret that a couple of ways, though. You could say that last 35 probably should be keeping it, or you could say people are keeping it when they know it's a slower matchup.
I would guess it is both matchup related and hand dependent. Like if you have schooling, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Chex Quest is a throwback.
They just re-released it like in HD, like an HD remake. You can get it for the Switch. I mean, you could also get Call to the Lamb for the Switch.
That's done
and
already.
That would probably be a better use of your time.
I think I'm going to let the nostalgia for Chex Quest stay in the past. I don't envision those sprites scaling up all that well.
I don't think so.
Despite the remastering, I don't know how masterful it was the first time. So, you know. I don't want to ruin that memory of asking my parents to buy corn Chex. Or was it rice Chex?
Oh, did you because this was after my time. You actually got them to buy the cereal to get the game?
Correct.
Oh man. Yep. I'm sorry.
Chex is all right.
No, I know. I eat Chex almost every morning.
Yeah.
But
though I was much more into what were the double-sided Chex called? You know what I'm talking about? The
Oh, Crispix?
Yeah. Big Crispix fan.
Yeah. No,
all right.
I do checks because like there aren't that many rice cereals, and I can't do corn, so for
Hmm.
reasons. So it's checks.
I'm ready if you all are ready.
I believe I am ready.
Okay.
I can be recording if you would like me to be recording.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Chex Quest is apparently free and redone with actual 3D graphics. Okay.
What was it before? Just like bitmaps?
But it was
I guess it must be.
in the 90s.
It was Doom. It was just
sprites.
a Doom skin.
It was the
right?
build engine, right? So it's just,
Yeah.
2D sprites layered.
Right.
This is the first thing the raw listeners are going to hear.
I'm gonna turn into like dust in before your eyes if we keep talking about these old games.
Then until I got some recent perspective, I
Like
didn't
you're giving
realize
away an amulet of protection.
how commercially tied in everything in the 90s was in such a major
Funny.
way. There were so many commercial video games.
Yeah, I don't think I really caught all that stuff, but I believe you.
I was just playing Magic because my parents refused to buy me a Super Nintendo, so and now I'm here. So joke's on
Here we
them,
go.
I guess.
Yeah. All right. I'm recording. Shall we?
Yes.
All right.
Sure.
3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Starting the show in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you. Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend.
Hello and welcome to episode 356 of Coin Conceit, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, August 11th in the evening. From Gatchtown, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Nomergon, Ohio, we have Edelweiss.
Hello.
And from Northern Massachusetts, we have Wicked.
Hi.
And from where you are, listener, we have you. Thank you so much for being here. Reviewers, thank you so much for reviewing. Patrons, thanks so much for patroning, whatever that verb is. What is that verb?
It sounds like it would be patronizing, but that's something different.
I don't think... No, that sounds
for
bad.
your patronage.
Yeah, sure.
It's not
We'll
a
figure it
verb, but it's provide. It's something your verb.
I think
verbing or
I
something.
think that's right for your patronage. That sounds
Yes.
correct.
Okay, we figured it out. So, thank you all for being here. Y'all support the show the way you do. Listeners, you help us be heard. And patrons, you help us, buy stuff. And reviewers, you help other people find us. So thank you all for what you do. Life and Ladder. Edelweiss. Tell us about your hat and your life and your ladder.
So we got stuff from Blizzard, which included I'm told it's called a deerstalker hat, but the thing that Sherlock Holmes wears in all the goofy imagery, etc. It's very fun. There were other things also great, including this members only jacket, which I'm told is a brand from the 80s.
Yes, it is. I remember my father wearing them in the 80s, so that is.
I'm
correct.
unfamiliar, but it's cool. A pin. This is my first collectible pin in terms of Hearthstone stuff, which is dangerous. This is how they get you. Now I need all the other pins. I'm doomed. But anyway, so yeah, that was awesome. I opened it up on stream earlier today, and I've been playing a bunch of Countess in Paladin, and it's been great. I think people are kind of crapping on Paladin somewhat unnecessarily, or are bad at it. I don't really know what's going on, but I've been playing a form of pure Paladin, and I'm 73%, 16-6, not terrible. And Countess is a really, really fun card, so it kind of works out. I'm honestly impressed, because I thought that just doing regular holy Paladin things and ending with Smite would be the way to go. But Smite is a really face up win condition,
It's
which is not what you want.
in this meta with the volume of hand disruption we have. You can't just rely on one angry cow.
Yeah. So whereas the Countess, sometimes it has gotten stolen, but occasionally I get an additional one from Muckborn Servant. And it can be a bit high rolly, but it's only class legendaries and it's discover. So most of the time you can get something pretty good, and even a fail state is going to be a pile of stats for a 3 mana. I say 3 because even though it costs 0, you have to pay 3 for the invitation. Could be better if they made it 2 or something, but yeah, I've had some crazy games. I had a replay floating around earlier where I killed a shaman from 40 with Lady Sathino. It
Oh,
is
that game was sweet. I saw that clip.
delightful clip. Just Sathino, equality, make a trade on board with a minion that I had, and then I run one copy of Divine Toll, which has been great for me. I think two is a lot, but one helps you get your Garden's Graces reduced, and usually you want to do it for a board buff, not a clear. But if you equality, it still works. So killed the last 1 or 2 things on board, buffed Sathino a bunch, and then double Garden's Grace for 2 really big face hits, and that was that.
Yeah, Maureen was playing mage and was on the receiving end of that immediately after you posted your clip. And it's less fun when you're on the other end of it. I can confirm that, but
I
that's
believe
not
that.
your problem.
No, that's fine. I'm playing a dead class, right? So I get to be the hero of the story.
Paladin isn't quite as deep down. Paladin Rogue are not as bad off as Warrior and DH, which the front page of HSR, as unscientific as it may be, is showing both those classes in the 30s, in the high 30s, 37%-ish global win rate. But buffs are coming. We have at least confirmation that they are going to buff something. We don't know what or how many, but we have a picture meme from a designer, so that's basically news, because the future is dumb. Yeah. How about you, Steve?
Well, so I have a story also involving that deck, but I was on the other side of it. I've been playing mostly the meta decks because I've been trying to get prep for THL this week. And I was playing mage, and I ran into one Bodicus HS on ladder.
I know
who
him.
was playing this deck. So we were going back and forth. I think I was playing the Renathal deck of mage. I've been flipping back and forth between them depending on my mood, on whether I want 40 or 30 cards, and basically how much I hate Shaman at that particular moment. But so we're going back and forth, and he plays Cariel, which I somehow had forgotten was a card. So sometime between the expansion launch and now, like, oh yeah, that's a thing. I don't really have a way to deal with that. I don't have a Viper. But I've played a bunch of Skeletons. So and I'm sitting here just like staring at a Kael'thas and a Bran in my hand. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to try to draw my deck and find Kel'Thuzad and just hope that the number is big enough. And so he was at 14 with a buffed Mita on board, which, by the way, was offensive to me as a priest main, that he was playing with my cards again. I mean, I guess he's a priest main too, but details. So he's got like an 8-10 Mita and 14 life and the Cariel weapon up, and I draw the Kel'Thuzad, and the number was 20. And I can tell you that many skeletons takes a little bit. It goes for a while, and it was going because all the skeletons just keep going. It doesn't stop once they get to 0. They're all gonna pop, and they popped for quite a bit, but it did tick them down one point of damage at a time, and eventually got there. But that was it was quite a game. But I've been played more Wig Priest on stream on Monday. That was working. That's working a little bit less well now that everyone's running Shaman with Primordial Wave. That's a little bit less fun. The mages are generally running more freezes, so they can kind of freeze you out in every turn. But I've been playing a lot of a few different things. I posted in the Discord yesterday. This is what a 50% win rate looks like, which was me coming back from work because I actually went into the office yesterday and I had like a loss streak of like 6 or 7 in a row, followed by going like win one, lose one, and then going on a 6 or 7 game win streak. And I was 50% on the day, but it felt awful until it felt less awful. And and I think like part of it was just like I'm still learning everything, and it always takes me a bunch of reps. And like usually when I have a bad loss streak like that, I'm mulliganing wrong, and I think I was. I think I was keeping things that I shouldn't have been keeping. Like I was keeping Null in my opening hand when I really ought not to have been. And I mean, we're going to talk about Shaman a lot more, so we'll talk about that later. But I think that like I wasn't tilted, but I was just like I was occasionally getting high rolled. Like my 10 drop would get primordial waved into an Ickman or whatever, and but I eventually turned it around. But it's important to kind of see what that variance looks like, because like if I just went by how I felt, I would have felt like, oh, I just wasted my whole evening. But then I went and looked at my stats, like, oh yeah, this was 50%. I guess it's fine. I kind of didn't lose too much, but it felt awful while I was in the middle of it. So
yeah, this is also a format where you can do a powerful thing and still not win the game, and I think that's generally a good thing, but also it can mean that feeling of I did everything right and still didn't win, what's wrong with me, is very easy to find. I had 2 THL matches today where I lost 2 far right guards, including one where my opponent, who literally apologized after this game, which was game 5 of the series, I did Mutinous against a mage. I ate the Sivera, which was loaded up with Solid Alibi, Wildfire, Flurry, into Bran Macaw, and I ate a Kel'Thuzad, and then I whiffed. And then they played Mordrish with the Bran in play. So, I died. I was at 30. They put me to 5 that turn because they had flurried my minions, and I had said, okay, I'll just clear your hand. This Bran can only hit if it's a Mordrish off the top on turn 8. Happens. I lost a game against Zoo, even though I had a turn 3 12-12 as a Shaman, because they were able to put Void Walkers in the way and able to shady bartender me for a lethal, even though I was going face to try and end the game with them at 1 life, and they had to do runner, but it happens. The powerful things in this format are good, but they don't always win you the game, which I think is probably ideal, probably optimal. I didn't feel that at the time, but I do feel that now. But also there's power, but not as much from hand lethality outside of Denathrius and Dawn Grasp. Those are the 2 ways to kill from hand, like Mordrish and Kel'Thuzad or whatever along for the ride. It's Denathrius and Dawn Grasp, and otherwise you're killing on the board. And that's just what happens.
Stunner.
Which one?
Quest Stunner's still good.
Yeah, I mean, you see that one coming from turn 1. It's not...
Sure.
Yeah, it's not like sudden lethality. It's like, oh, Quest Hunter is doing what Quest Hunter's going to do. But yes, it is off-board. You're right. Yeah.
I guess Draka kind of falls into the same boat when it works. I guess boat is wrong because there's no boat in that deck. But,
yeah, well, Miracle Rogue is still highly questionable unless you are Surrender or WP, who are the 2 people that are doing well with it. Looking at the global statistics, they are significant, substantial outliers. So... I have lost to a Miracle Rogue this week, but also I have beaten them because either my opponent played the cards in the wrong order, or I put 1 taunt in the way, and then they died. Yeah. So, it'll happen. As for me, I can tell I'm enjoying the meta more when my rank is better, because that usually is how that goes. When I'm happy, I perform better, in part because I play more, but in part because I don't hate the games. So I'm just outside of top 200 right now. I would like to make a little leaderboard push. The best deck for me right now has been Luna's No Celestial Ramp Druid, and I am in the camp of I don't believe that Guff is a problematic card. However, I have won a lot of games where I've drawn him, and I win those games with a lot more mana than my opponent has. And I understand the feeling of people that don't like playing against it, especially when it's, Kelp Keeper, Coin Wild Growth, Guff Hero Power, and then I forget what I did exactly, but I'm pretty sure it involved a Kael'thas and an Earth and Scales faster than it was supposed to happen. I don't know. I beat a zoo with Druid today. Felt gross. Been doing all right with that deck. And the mirror matches are stupid. Stupid is the word I'm going to use. But it's good. There are some temporary rogue decks going around. Obviously been having some fun with those. Bach for Life made a really fun one in our Discord with... It basically is like Noel Boat Rogue, except it doesn't have any of the jackpot stuff. It just plays some damage and Door of Shadows and just tempo-y cards, and you just try and play a bunch of Edwins. And, that's good enough. You can get there with a Draka for 6. That's 18 damage. You do that on turn 4. You have a Sinstone Graveyard in play. You're going to be fine. It's going to be okay. So just very tempo-y, really enjoying that. And I've kind of given up on Wig Priest for now just because there's a lot of Shaman. Playing some Shaman deck is fun and good. Played a little bit of Hunter. I've enjoyed my time with Wild Spirits, and I'm going to enjoy it up until Monday or Tuesday whenever they nerf it, because they probably should. But man, Wild Seeds are good. Good and fun, but probably too good.
Yeah, I've dabbled in some Quest Hunter, but it seems inevitably, whenever I play Quest Hunter, I find every druid on ladder immediately. I draw them. It's like a siren's call, and druid into it's like the Quest Hunter is good into a lot of things, but druid is just absolutely like 20 minutes of misery every single time, and it's just unfavored enough that you feel like you have a chance, so you're compelled to play it and not just auto concede it. But it always ends poorly. Yeah, I'm like Charlie Brown with the football every single time.
Yeah. This meta has some variety. I really like how a lot of the good decks feel against each other. It feels like there's good counterplay, decisions are rewarded. It's not too random, but it's not, prescribed. But the dead classes, kind of pretty dead. I do think that, like I said earlier, you can play Paladin and kind of do okay. The Vicious Syndicate, Greed Paladin, I guess we'll call it, plays Double Devourer and Denathrius and Renethal. It's big.
Excuse me?
It's Holy Paladin with stuff. You play a bunch of holy cards, but also you play Devourers and Denathrius and Renethal, and the things that you would expect in a 40-card deck, because Insatiable Devourer is, the snack attack is legit. It is a very good card, because it's an immediate threat that also invalidates 3 of your opponent's threats while being damage agnostic. That card is... I'm not willing to play Naga Priest because of how many of those there are running around.
Yeah, that's the other thing that makes it miserable. Yeah.
Really unpleasant, right? But when they found a way to make a format where they increase the power so it's optimal to put 10 extra cards and 2 9-drops in your deck, I think that's actually a pretty good spot to land in. We just need to make the decks that aren't seeing any play, we need to give them some power. We need to give them something to do. But that was directly alluded to, so I expect that as of next week we'll have more to talk about.
You need to add the caveat to 2 9-drops and a 10-drops in decks that aren't druid.
Yeah, in multiple classes
those
that aren't druid.
Yeah.
I don't think we've gotten to the point of Devourer and Renethal in Warlock yet, in Imp Zoo. But there is... But the rank 1 Imp Warlock list runs Kael'thas, Murlocula, Gigafin, and Denathrius. Because why not? Because why not? It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you've got an infused Murlocula, and so you can just go Kale, Murlocula, and either Denathrius or Gigafin. Get it out a little bit earlier.
And I mean, Denathrius is going to have plenty to feed on in that deck, so yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I have gotten to the point where I am frequently keeping Rafam on the coin because he comes down on 5 every single time. And it is very, very hard to lose a game where you Rafam on 5. Very difficult. Pretty powerful card. But enough from me. We've got some news to talk about. Let's go.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right. So I probably should have gotten the Battlegrounds emotes here. Where are these new Battlegrounds emotes? Here they are. I've got an image.
They're delightful.
They are really great. Let me put this up here. Okay. I knew I forgot something. Okay. So, the new emotes for BGs have gone on sale. They are $5 US. For 6 emotes, you can swap them out per slot in the collection. This also means we have learned the names of the original emotes. There were many people on Twitter yesterday that were surprised that the sad dwarf was a dwarf. That's the orange one. I believe Pocky thought that it was a dog.
Many people, I thought it was a fish.
A fish?
A fish.
It's a dwarf.
I can't explain how my brain works, Hat. It looked like a fish to me. I don't know why.
Well, you are not the only person that thought this was a thing that was not a dwarf, but it is a sad dwarf. However, I imagine that most people have swapped him out by now, and instead we have 6 new emotes. Of course, the objectively best one is Watfin drinking tea, but there are also 5 other ones that are included. So, you can get those, swap them out per. I equipped Watfin drinking tea, Sinstone for sure. I think I have Sweaty Rafam in there too.
I'm gonna publicly lobby that I believe we need Watfin drinking tea in the Discord.
We do. I have the emotes downloaded. I just haven't uploaded them to the Discord yet,
excellent.
but it's gonna happen.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That is a necessary quality of life upgrade for the Discord.
Yep. Matt at Arms sent me the emotes because of course, he has them. All right. In addition, there are 2 new skins in the shop: Baroness Vash and Kel'Thuzad the Inevitable. I think Vash looks really great. But I have too many Shaman skins, so I'm not going to buy. And
Vash's emotes, by the way, are top notch. There was a tweet the other day of she's a super villain because even her taunts are like monologues. Like her threaten is something something over patience and I'm all out of patience, or it's like a whole like monologue. It's fantastic. The only reason I didn't buy her is because I would have to not use the Sunken Vosh, who has the well played. I see you're wickedly good as this, and I obviously have to have that as my only shaman skin because
wicked. You can just favorite only those.
But then I would not be able to tell people that they are wickedly good after a game if I did that. Not that I do that anyway because I'm Rakan by that point, but that's beside the point.
Oh, yeah. See, I have all the Vashes, and that's just the Shaman rotation is Vash.
Yeah, I have actually really enjoyed Random Hero because it lets me just pick a few instead of picking one, and then it's kind of a fun surprise every time that I queue up. I will say it makes the collection screen a little harder to keep track of because they randomly roll when you go in. So when I see 2 warrior decks next to each other and they have different portraits, I'm like, what's going on here? But
the only thing that I would like is if there was a way to just set after you've done that to say, I want this to be my only portrait, because when I got Curie and Tyrande, that was what I did, and I had to go through all my other priest portraits and turn them off individually. And I just say, I only want to be Curie and Tyrande for a while. It could be a long while because Curie and Tyrande is also fantastic.
Well, you can just drag her in, right?
Can you? I mean, that's for the deck. Can you just
I'm pretty sure for the deck you can just drag her in.
For the deck, you can just set it. Yeah, but then I have to do that for every deck, and I've got a lot of priest decks, as one might imagine.
That
I might have a problem.
It makes sense. Hey, there are multiple quest priest lists that were top 100. Zetalot's top 10 again with the quest priest list.
I mean, I will be putting that to the test on my stream tomorrow. Don't worry.
I wasn't. I was not.
See, this is why I don't do it. I leave it to you.
I know. It's fair. I mean, you're over there doing the Lord's work playing Paladin, so it's fine.
Yeah.
So, in gameplay news, we have a somewhat significant hotfix. So, there are a few things going out. First of all, for Constructed, the collateral damage bug was fixed. Now, we talked about this extensively last week, but I have looked into this as much as any secret passage-based interaction. There is a lot going on here, but I can explain it quickly and easily, so I will. There is a desire from the players playing collateral damage to have it work like Piercing Shot, to have it double hit dead things to deal more damage. However, we all know that randomly targeted spells don't hit dead things, because if you Embered of Ragnaros and hit a dead 1/1 3 times, you would be sad. The difference that people want is that collateral damage, they want it to hit dead things because it'll deal more damage like Piercing Shot, but that's just not how this thing works, even though it's player favorable. Piercing Shot double hits something because it has an arrow. Same as anything else with an arrow. And if you choose the target, the game doesn't have to do it for you, but if the game has to choose a target, it only looks for legal targets. Collateral damage was not hitting dead minions before. It just wasn't clearing the counter of overflow damage. It was a mistake because they didn't clear a variable during the loop. That was all it was. So, as an example, if you were to Piercing Shot, double Piercing Shot, a 3/3, you would deal your opponent 9. If you were to Twin Bow Collateral, a single 3/3, your opponent would take 6. Because it was doubling the overflow damage of 3, and then whiffing on the second cast.
This is the bugged version, you're saying?
That was the bugged version. If
Okay.
it was working like Piercing Shot, you would have dealt 9. But you dealt 6, which is 3, and then an accidental 3 in addition. If you do that today, as of right now, double collateral damage on a single 3/3, which you probably shouldn't do, you will deal 3 damage, because the first cast deals 3 damage to the 1 minion, and the second cast has no legal targets and whiffs. So, significant change. However, people overfixate on this combination the same way they did with Edwin Smite. You want to Twin Bow Wild Spirits. Big trust. Trust me, you want to Twin Bow Wild Spirits. Stag Charge is fine. Aim Shot is fine. You want to use Twin Bow on curve and then play something rad and broken that probably makes Wild Seeds, and then collateral for a Pyroblast on turn 8. The amount of times that Twin Bow collateral comes up, unless you're specifically trying to do it, is really, really rare. You can't coin it out. So, and if you do need to do it against a full board of mage skeletons or whatever, still works because they probably have 6 of them. I don't think that it will be a huge impact. It is objectively worse because it's not bugged in the player's favor anymore. But I don't think it'll come up all that much. But you should probably just be using your Twin Bow for mid-game spells anyways, especially Wild Spirits. Like, really, especially Wild Spirits. It's crazy.
And probably, I would imagine the decks that were running 2 copies of Collateral probably go back down to 1 after this.
Oh, yeah. I'd think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's been fixed just in time for the Masters Tour. I expect that to be the only gameplay change that we see in this format. There was a bug with suspicious durability suspicious pirate. The thing that you would discover a weapon, then they would discover a weapon. If you equipped the weapon the same turn that you discovered and attacked, they would get your version with 1 less durability because it was copying the one that you made instead of the base version. Pretty funny. They fixed that.
Great.
It also, I guess it would have been pretty clear already what you picked because you would have played the weapon. But funny. In Arena, they did a balance pass. There was a small bug with Olgra's entrance animation. And in duels, they banned Wild Hard Guff from deck building. Originally, it was said just for Drekthar, but it's actually for all heroes. So, all the duels players that I know are pretty happy about this.
Yeah, sounds right.
Yes. I mean, quoting Matt London, Atesh wanted to drop the mic, and the mic was Wild Heart Guff. So.
There's a pretty funny meme from Daniel. Where is this thing?
It's in the show notes.
I'm putting it up on the screen.
Oh, you want the tweet?
No, I have. I want OBS to do what I want.
Okay.
So, there was a meme from Atesh. Tell Guff I want him to know it was me. Yeah. So, sorry, Guff. You're too broken for duels. Which says a lot, when you think about it. And finally, fixed a bug that occurred for players who triggered the free new or returning player deck condition before patch 24.0, but didn't claim the deck until after patch 24.0. That's what was supposed to happen. Instead, what happened? We don't know the specifics, but a lot of people got offered a free deck today. my current prevailing theory is anyone that had ever been offered a free deck in the past got offered another one when they logged in today. This was unintended. However, well, first of all, as I alluded to in my tweet earlier, based on what happened last time, I'm not giving anyone any advice. You do what you want to do. I am not responsible for whatever you do or whatever Blizzard does afterwards. However, I would be willing to personally make a wager on this and say that Blizzard is probably not going to attempt to recoup any of these. Again, also because the last time this went down, it wasn't the most positive experience. And also, I would bet that it was a relatively small number of people and they caught it relatively quickly.
Yeah.
So, if you got offered a free deck, you are not exploiting a bug by clicking the button. I don't know what Blizzard will do, but I don't believe it's possible to play today if you get offered this pop-up and you don't click it. So feel free to click a button that Blizzard gives you, because it's not your fault for them giving you this button. So yeah. But I believe that they said the hotfix has been paused due to an air quotes issue with the patch. I'm not going to say for sure that this is it, but I'm going to say I'm pretty sure that this is it. So yeah,
I would expect it's gonna be resolved before most people hear the podcast version of this, though, because I mean it needs to be. I would expect it needs to be in place before deck submission for Master Store tomorrow.
Yeah, but they also don't want to give away more $1 million and dust sort of thing.
Yep.
Also, we have. I'm just gonna put this up on the screen. We have a new tweet from Atesh that I'm going to share here. It is very funny. Where's this thing? Like 5 minutes ago. To quote Atesh at Tabayrak, with peace and love at Guff Rune Totem, rest in hell. Guy gets off the duels team, does what he wants to do. Respect. He's working on an unannounced survival game, and Guff is clearly not in that game. So,
if Guff does not respond with "You are not nice," I will be very disappointed.
We'll have to ask Guff. Yeah. All right. In addition, more news, more stuff. So there's a new Hearthstone Legends video about Pavel. I didn't watch it. 5.5 hours. I'm always like freaked out by these because it is like every match he's ever played on camera.
I watched the Lion one, which was shorter than these, and still like 3 hours or something.
Yeah, I think it's worth scrubbing through to watch the Paveling book game against Amnesiac. If you, I'm sure that's in there. And if you haven't watched it, it's that would be worth your time to find it. If I have time, I'll probably scrub through and try to find it, because like that we could do a whole episode about that one game, I bet. Because that's one of those things that looks at first glance like a high roll, and then when you go break it down, like the amount of setup that it took to get to that point and win that game from what looked like an unwinnable position was just like, that's the reason that he was the world champion that year. And that game that's up there with like last time we talked about one of these Legends videos, like the Tice freeze mage mirror where Tice pinged his own face. Like it's like one of those things that's up there in like the NFL films vault of Hearthstone HCT like legend games.
Poor young Savage.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's there have been some pretty special games, and that one is I think that is one of the most famous games in Hearthstone history, the Paveling book, probably.
When the game has a name, in title case, I think that's that kind of qualifies. Yeah.
So let's see what else. There's a new quest live that just randomly went live on Tuesday at Blizzard o'clock, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific. You play 5 infused cards, you get a pack. Okay, cool. There's apparently more of these coming. This was not announced; it just happened. Also, 5 infused cards, very reasonable. I will say I have submitted the feedback. The weekly quest for play 30 infused cards, I think, is slightly less reasonable and maybe should be 15 or something. Because 30 is, I know it's a weekly, 30's a big number. A big number. It takes forever.
Yeah. And you can't like cheat it and do it in a different mode. Like if you have like 50 Battlecry cards, you can play BGs or whatever to try to speed that up. Like you're not doing that in with Infused. Like you have to play that in constructed games. There just aren't that many Infused cards that you're playing. I mean, there's like Famished Fool and Devourer and Denathrius and you know, I guess there's a few more in like Implock and is there a different one in Druid that's not neutral?
Druid, no.
so.
Druid's just doing Devourer and Denathrius.
Yeah, I
But
think
I guess,
Shaman
like,
probably runs the most,
Yeah.
but
You could
Rogue
run
might
Fleeing
have
the Scene.
quickest games.
The Scammy Zoo that plays Murlocula and Rafam and Mischievous Imp might be it.
Yeah,
And also,
That's right.
that is also the highest likelihood of playing multiple infused cards before turn 10. Because, like, you know, when you're looking at infused card counts and you start with your 2 9s and a 10, how long does it take you to get to 1 proc on your quest? It takes a while. If your first infused card is Insatiable Devourer, it can take a minute to get there.
I mean, they could just make a weekly quest like get through a game without having Denathrius pulled out of your hand, right? Like that could just be the weekly quest.
But we want them to be able to complete the quest.
I completed the 5 infuses pretty quickly with just Door of Shadows. That was the only one. So, like, because it's infused too, it's fine.
I like that card.
It's a great card.
Yeah.
It's probably my favorite rogue card right now.
Not
Serrated Bone Spike. Serrated Bone Spike.
Yeah, I like Door better.
What about, can we settle on Door for Bone Spike?
Sure, yeah, that's great.
That's
Although
a
Door
deal.
for Stab is pretty nice.
And don't get me wrong, I am pro stab. However, whether it goes at minions, whether it goes at face, as long as we're getting a bunch of stabs going, I want to open that door. I want to do that.
I'm just going to be happy when that card rotates so I don't constantly think that people are calling me on streams when they play it.
For Door of Shadows?
Well, because I hear people say Wicked Stab and my ears perk up. Like an idiot dog.
I follow. I get that. Yes. What else? We had something else. Something else happened. Oh, yes. So there's no balance patch this week. However, there is a balance patch next week. I believe it is actually explicitly confirmed. There were teaser tweets today. Here's one from Dean Ixar Ayala, the game director of Hearthstone. For audio listeners, this is Jason Momoa with the Hearthstone icon over him, coming up behind Henry Cavill in the meme format with Celestial Alignment on his face. Pretty sure that means that Celestial Alignment's going to not function the same way anymore pretty soon. Likely.
I don't know, Hat. Someone retweeted it with the buff. Right?
So
with someone buffing a car.
Aleko also posted a picture of buffs. I do not believe this means that Celestial Alignment is getting buffed. I do not believe that's what that means. I am personally choosing to believe that Celestial Alignment will not be symmetrical anymore. And then yes. And then buffs are more generally alluded to by Aleko, one of the balance designers, the final designers on the game, because we need those. Doesn't mean there won't be other nerfs.
I would like to think Aleko did not wake up and choose violence in the patch notes. I would like to believe that.
We don't need to revert Celestial. We don't need that in our lives.
No.
Yeah.
And I mean, Deck Tech did tweet that there are no balance changes this week, but he's writing up something for Monday or Tuesday that was in response to Ixar's tweet. So that's about as much of a confirmation of balance changes next week as we're likely to get.
Yep. It's this is the timeline we expected. This is the timeline they alluded to before the expansion came out. The Battlegrounds guys came out and said it'll be a couple weeks. Aleko said it'll be a couple weeks. And we know that the Master Tour was coming. So I am still expecting Tuesday the 16th. And that means that we will, if he said Monday or Tuesday, didn't say Wednesday, so the patch is probably on Tuesday. We might get same-day patch notes. We might get day before. We'll see. Who knows? But now is the time. Unfounded nerf predictions. Everyone's favorite game show. You don't get to say celestial alignment. We already know that that's coming. You can predict how you think it's going to get nerfed. I'm betting that the asymmetry is going away, that it's only for the player casting it.
Yeah.
Thoughts on any other changes?
You mean that the symmetry is going away? That it will become asymmetrical?
It will become
It-
asymmetrical.
The person playing is the only person who has their stuff changed.
Yeah, that seems
That one.
plausible. You can still
Yes.
do crazy pop-offs, but
Yeah.
don't
So
screw
now
your
I'll
opponent.
only have like two things, making it impossible to play Quest Priest instead of 3. That's it.
It also means that Convoke no longer becomes a Lothab.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I don't really want Jackpot Rogues convoking me and alignmenting.
Oh God.
I feel like honestly that is like the big reason to hit alignment now is because it's impacting games negatively where people aren't even running it, but it just happens.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you nerf the things that are powerful now, right? Like, we already know that it's like just good enough that it's probably getting edged out by the things that are more powerful. So like, you nerf everything else, you don't touch alignment now, then it's just gonna be alignment o'clock. Like we just know, we've seen this movie, we know how it ends, right?
Yep. All right. Edelweiss, nerf predictions. You can mention buff ones if you want to as well. Changes. What do you think?
Should we begin the bird discussion? Should we
Go ahead. Go ahead.
do that here?
Go
in
ahead and
next
flip the
session?
bird, Edel.
So I have been evangelizing about setting Macaw to only repeat battle cries of 5 or less. Hat thinks this will kill the card. I disagree. I think it is a dramatic change, and I think it would go out of some lists. But also, I feel Macaw has kind of been in all kinds of shamans since it was printed. So if it functions differently, I think that's okay. Because there's still good things to repeat. You can repeat Dungeoneer, you could repeat Clownfish, you can still repeat the 5s, right? So Ravager or Fool. You can still repeat Theatar, which I know is something that people do. Although I think that's not as good, right? Because the Macaw
It's
just picks
random.
randomly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe don't do that. You can repeat Okani. I think there are a few decks that I can say the things you can repeat, and people are like, well, but that's not a thing. But maybe it would be if shamans don't have over 2 freezes. And that is, you can repeat things like Snapdragon or Twin Fin.
Or Sleepbreaker.
Or, yeah, Sleepbreaker is still a plenty good one. So I just think that it is okay for it to not do those higher power battle cries at this point, because that deck still has plenty of powerful things to do, and we're going to talk about it in explanations, with just Sire Denathrius and things. And it is usually the second and onward freezes that really kind of screw things up for board-based decks. So even if you were to change Snowfall to 7, which could be a thing that they do, at that point you've frozen their board. So if you just have the Macaw, you get to keep doing that thing, and it's still the same problem of chain freezes while creating huge threats. And I really think that making Macaw unable to repeat Denathrius, Mutinous, Insatiable Devourer, and Snowfall, but kind of especially Snowfall, is just a way to tone down the power level of Shaman with it still being playable and like eliminating this very offensive thing that is people just not being able to do stuff on board.
What if it wasn't based on mana cost, but if they added that you played this turn?
I think the card's even worse then.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I don't
Because
want to do that.
you know,
It's
it might, yeah. Because I mean, like the thing that matters with Snowfall is just that it's happening on successive turns, right? Like it's happening to you and then it's happening to you again on the next 2 turns. I mean, I guess if if it's not Snowfall, then does it matter in the first place? It's probably fine. I think either way, you're killing the card, right? For the most part, like yeah, there are things you can do. Are those things going to be good enough to warrant a slot in your deck?
I don't think that Macaw, if it skipped the cool battle cries, would be worth running. Like it's not a random value card. I don't think is it.
Well, for that deck, perhaps, right? I think something like where more of the battle cries are on the cheaper end, maybe it'd still be fine there, right? A bioluminescence deck would probably still do it because sometimes you get bioluminescence off of the Naga and you can still repeat that or some other things. Like I think it still could have a place in there.
And Talented
But
Arcanist is still on standard, right?
it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is very ambitious to Macaw a Talented Arcanist.
Yeah, that's
Listen, we are in magical Christmas land right now, Hat. So
okay, so let's.
I guess that there is some interesting symmetry with like Grey Sage Parrot, where Grey Sage Parrot is like everything that's 5 or more, then this is 5 or less. Like that, that just flavor wise, it kind of works.
Kinda. Macaw is a cool card because it does big things multiple times. And don't tell me that either of you want to give up Bolner, Macaw, and Mutinous. I know you want to keep doing that. Like,
no, I do not want to. I do not want that to happen anymore. I'm over that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I do.
Like you can still Boulder Mutinous and some 1-mana battle cry or something, right? You can still have your turn, but it has to be in the same turn.
This just feels like a card shouldn't go below 0 again. Like we just left a low power meta, and now we can finally do stuff. The 6 classes that can actually
can we do stuff if people
yes!
are mutinissing you and getting rid of everything in your hand like that?
You've been winning with Countess Paladin. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. It's the 6 decks, the 6 classes that are good right now, feel good to play against each other. There can be games where I don't like some of the things that happen.
It does not feel good to play against Shaman.
It depends on exactly how they do what they do, and they win too much right now. Deck needs to get worse, right? And I think it's fair for me to say that I have not been the biggest fan of Snowfall Guardian play patterns for a while now. It is. I've gotten tweeted memes at me about it on the internet. Believe me, not a big Snowfall fan. Killing decks in this format and ending up like the end of Skull Laments would make me way more sad than playing against Snowfall more. I want Snowfall to be worse. The best idea I can think of, make Snowfall only gain health. Keep it as a defensive tool. I just don't want to die to it anymore.
Or
I just don't
attack.
want to die to it.
Even or attack is fine too, right? Because if like you can still kill it with spells, right, or rush minions, then it's fine. It's the fact that it's getting the health. That's my feeling for Vile Library, right? Because I think that if Vile Library, if it only buffed the attack and not the health, it would still work the same in the deck, but you'd actually be able to react to that minion. Like if your opponent like is playing a minion that can't attack that turn, they just buff it and say go. You'd have a turn to react to it. Right now, if they buff something up to like a 9/9, you can't do anything. So I think like buffing the attack but not the health makes it so that they just don't have this butt on board that you can't get rid of. And if you can't deal with it, then it's coming for you. But it's still, so it kind of preserves the flipping of the game feeling, but it makes it something you can react to. Like when they took the health buff away from War Leader, right? Yeah. And then just made that like a lot more manageable when somebody played a War Leader. Because it used to be, this was years ago, like it used to be when you're playing against a Murloc deck and they played a War Leader, you were just done. And now it's a lot more
clear.
Yeah, it's that, and it was so like people would post clips of like they would equality pyro double war leader boards, and then the war leaders would live, and then the person would die. It was confusing. And I don't know, like this just off the top of my head, but honestly, like the equilibrium that we have right now among the good classes is so hard to find and so easy to disrupt that I am way more worried about removing pieces from the puzzle than I am about anything else.
Yeah, I don't think we need to make anything bad. I think we need to stop it from being too good.
I mean, right? I think people just also are afraid of losing stuff and think that buffs can do a thing, and I just don't believe
Oh,
that
we need
buffs
nerfs.
are...
We
It's
need
both.
nerfs.
It's both.
Okay.
There is no way to do this patch nerfless, and we know they're nerfing Celestial. In terms of things that I'm happy are gone, good.
Yeah.
Celestial's been it's been a
Get
year.
out.
It's been a year, and again, I'm not a Snowfall Guardian defender, but the way describe Shaman to you, Edelweiss, which is how you were able to find some fun this expansion, it's like Doom Quest Shaman in terms of just like value and value and value.
Right. And I think it is still that. And I stopped having fun because then everyone was playing it and it became the best deck.
Well, sure.
And it has an
And
answer
the
there
mirrors
too.
are not fun.
But I think that deck has enough powerful things it is doing that it can survive even if you deleted Macaw, honestly. And I think you don't need to hit Guardian if you make Macaw not function with it. Because yes, it gets large, but if it's just the one, maybe two, like, that is dealable, right? Particularly with, certain tools that deal with big minions. Some decks, it's still going to be very rough for you. But a lot of times I've found that you can handle, even as a very board-based deck, one round of Snowfall.
Yeah.
And it's the second onward that gets you, because then they get to not attack with their board when they freeze it again, and then be able to attack with the full thing and kill you out of nowhere.
Yeah, I have Naga Priested my way through a Snowfall with Boon of the Ascendant. Like, you can beat one.
Yeah.
I can't beat three. So,
Right.
I mean, maybe Macaw has to be the end. I don't know. It does so much cool stuff, but also it does so much, like, cold
It's been
stuff.
doing
really
the same
cool,
cool stuff
but-
for a while, though. It's not cool anymore, right?
The stuff that it gets to do now, like, it has become too versatile, because you can use it with Mutinous and it's great. You can use it with Denathrius and it's great. Guardian, we've of course been doing. Devourer can even be insane. I mean, you don't get to pick the target, but you still probably kill two things, if not three. So I think it's doing way too much work being able to hit all those crazy big battle cries.
Especially now that Bran is in standard in addition to Volner.
Yeah.
Right, because like now you're doubling it on top of it. Like it's a lot, and I mean that's going to kind of bring me to one of the things that I think needs to change. I think you just need to add the word other to Kael'thas. Like, there are too many decks that are running Kael'thas, Brand, and Athreus. I think that, like, if Druid's doing it and Druid didn't really have to, fine. We've got multiple decks now. Mage is running it. Shaman's running it. By the end of the weekend, Warlock may be running it, right? Like, at this rate, like,
They're already.
It's like any slow deck has those three cards in it. That's a little bit too overrepresented for a neutral card, right? Like, Kael'thas should be the deck building challenge should be a little bit more difficult than just throw Bran and Denathrius in your deck, right? There needs to be a little bit more work there to get that to hit your opponent for 80.
Is that the card or the format?
I think it's both, right? But I think that it's like, again, like Kael'thas should be something where you're coming up with some sort of an interesting challenge, and it's like, if the answer is just Brand and Athreus, that's too straightforward, right? Like, that's too easy to get value out of it. I think that they would think, like, if you're printing a card like Kael'thas, it's supposed to come up with like cool combos and something that's a little bit intricate to set up, maybe. Like, this is too easy. It's just, and we're going to be very sick of it one way or the other. You kind of have to do something about Denathrius. You can't really do much in Druid, but I imagine they're probably also going to hit scale. Maybe they make the scale, the whelps 1/1s instead of 2/1s.
This is a lot of changes early on, though. I don't know if they're going to make that many
I don't know.
changes.
I mean, scale's the other problem, right? Like, scale...
Define
scale is
problem.
Well, again, let's assume they're hitting Shaman. They're doing something to Mage, probably something to Magister Drawn Grasp. I don't know
Mage. Why Mage?
Because think about what's going to happen, right? Is that if you take Shaman away, maybe Mage is okay, but like Varden, Magister Drawn Grasp kind of gets a little bit old too, right? So,
but
like,
Shaman isn't holding Mage down. That matchup is pretty close.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
but I mean, you're addressing Warlock, right? And Warlock's rushing something like Mage down, right? Because, like, we're probably doing something to Vile Library and
Something
something
small.
maybe to impending catastrophe. I do, I think either. Yeah, I don't know.
The only thing I would do to Mage is put the location to 2 durability.
Oh, that we need to do. Yeah, that's for sure.
So we're already talking about a lot of changes to really
Yeah,
cool
so maybe
cards that
not.
people are playing 2 weeks in. Again, we have a really, really good diverse field among the classes that are playable in a tight balance, very easily disrupted by a single over nerf. If you over nerf Warlock, Druid gets way better, Celestial or no. They've got to be really, really careful about that.
Yeah.
They
This
over
is definitely
nerfing.
Mr. Burns of the Doctor that we're dealing with right now. And
Right.
And
So I don't want to
and
talk
that's the
about
thing.
like proactive changes to Mage and then proactive changes to
Yeah,
Druid
fine.
cards that aren't Celestial alignment. Like I'm
Fair enough.
thinking, you look at the decks that are real outliers, and I'm gonna look at Bronze through Gold. I'm gonna look at Bronze through Gold. Imp Warlock, Face Hunter, Control Shaman. At Bronze through Gold. Those are the 3 tier 1 decks. Control Shaman at Bronze through Gold. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is.
So if we look at one card in those 3 decks plus Celestial, and that is it for nerfs. If you move Vile Library, don't give it a base +1/+1. I don't want it to go to 3. If it goes to 3, you ruin the curve of the deck. And you probably kill it. So you can't put it to 3. Maybe just no base +1/+1. Maybe just attack, like you said. Something like that. Yeah. Face Hunter, I don't know what you do with Wild Spirits, but that card should be like slightly worse somehow. You could move that card to 4 and it's still fantastic.
Or maybe you make the weapon like a 3/2.
Yeah, right? Maybe the weapon's a 3/2. Maybe you shave a point of health off the taunt. The numbers are pretty high right now. You could make the numbers a little lower. I still want the functionality there. Wild Seeds are cool, but when the best mulligan cards in the best Face Hunter deck are from the top, Wild Spirits, Altimore, Spirit Poacher, Erelon. Those are the top 4 in the most popular in that range. If you look overall on Diamond through Legend,
I think in Quest. Quest, the Wild Seeds are the best too.
The top 3 cards in Face Hunter in the most popular 1 collateral damage list in this order. Wild Spirits, Spirit Poacher, Erelon. There are no other positive mulligan win rate cards. Wild Spirits, Spirit Poacher, Erelon. The 5-drop. 4th place is Vicious Slither Spear, the Mana Worm. Which I guess you're supposed to just not keep because it's not a Wild Seed.
Oh, no.
So,
yeah,
we can nudge 1 card in Face Hunter, 1 card in Zoo, slightly, 1 card in Shaman, and alignment. Stop. Done. That's it.
I still think you could nudge Chaos Thoughts because that kind of takes it down across the board.
Maybe.
Right.
You could, like, the neutrals are a little different, and I will say the 6 most popular cards in the format per HS Replay at Diamond through Legend ranks are in this order. Bran Bronzebeard, Prince Renathal, in 43% of decks, both of them. Sire Denathrius, 38% of decks. Theotar the Mad Duke, 36% of decks. Kael'thas in 25%, Mutinous in 21%.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if any of those need a nudge right now. My instinct is probably not because they're new and cool and I don't know how to change them without taking them away.
Well, and also, I would say that I think if you do things in waves, like that's kind of what you want to do. Like you're saying, Hat, just hit some of the things, and then we'll see if Kael'thas is still a problem, whatever. But I feel like, say they did make the Macaw change, it seriously does go into maybe you're killing things territory if you affect Sinstrider, because I think Shaman takes advantage of Kael'thas Sinstrider more than any other deck right now. It has the most flexibility of powerful plays with that card, and we'll talk about it later. And I think that is a big part of why the deck is so powerful, is all the stuff you can do when you hit Kael'thas. Because of some of the mana discounting, because of the piranhas, it's got a lot going on.
Schooling is OP. Like, when did that happen?
Schooling's so good. Oh my god.
I mean, but that's always. I mean, that was good even last meta. That was.
It was.
Yeah.
You would Schooling on 1 against Warrior and just Pyroblast them with fish.
Yeah. Hydroblast is what you do.
I guess. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. And then we're getting buffs. Tell me buffs you want. Tell me. Talk to me. Give me buff suggestions.
This is the thing. I just have no idea when it comes to buffs, right? Because I don't know what's the thing. Like, Enema Extractor is already powerful, but I don't know what you would do to make it more so.
Well, and Rage
I mean,
War
Relic Vaulted 2 is the obvious one, right?
DH is a lot easier to
yeah.
figure out. It's so
Sure. Yeah.
Demon Hunter. I've thought a lot about Demon Hunter. First of all, you could probably move every single relic card 1 mana cheaper and be okay, except Dimensions. Leave that one right where it is.
Yeah,
but
I was gonna say.
Or also, if Vault was at 2 and Extinction started at 2 damage. Good start. Good place to begin. Right? Because they don't have to all start at the same number. The game figures out how much damage it's going to do. Let it figure it out for you. It doesn't have to be symmetrical. And then make Magnifying Glaive draw more cards. Make that a better payoff. If you had to draw up to 5, would it be busted? Because that card only works when you willingly throw away your entire hand. I think we can make the payoff for that pretty good. Like, it'll put a lot of power in Magnifying Glaive in an archetype that is incredibly Feast or Famine, which is kind of what they designed it to do. But you need to have some way to reward me for literally throwing away my entire hand. And it better be a good reward, and right now it isn't. It isn't. But yeah, Warrior, I don't know. The idea that I had is when you infuse Imbued Axe, make it Battle Rage when you Battle Cry. Like, I don't need the +2/+2 ever. I don't need that. It's like, if it's just the +1/+1 and then also it draws me some cards, that class needs draw. We all know it. We all know that Enraged War is missing draw.
The way I've been building that deck has been with Acolyte of Pain and Whelp Bonker. Because
you have
they give you some they give you some guaranteed draws. And in some respects, I like that because it reminds me of Enraged Warrior but from before. I'm like, oh, this is why they brought Acolyte of Pain back. Like, it is Enraged Warrior, and it's great. But I think it's the issues that I had tended to be recursive freezes, and there's a lot of disruption right now. So whether it's Starfish or people going, hey, you don't have many cards in hand, so I'm going to Theatar and take the thing you just buffed. Or Mutinous, whatever, right? Like, it just, what it wants to do does not line up.
Yeah. Enraged Warrior is hard because the thing that it need wasn't printed. Like, they just didn't make draw cards. And so you have to...
Right.
Well, you either have to graft it onto something else, or you have to crank up the numbers early to make it work. There's probably something here, or maybe we revert some Control Warrior cards. Title Revenant?
Yeah, I was gonna say that, I tried Control Warrior and that wasn't working either, and same with Pirate Warrior.
Yeah.
Like,
Steve, I think it was you that said, how crazy would From the Depths actually be right now at 3?
Did I say that? Was I drunk?
Maybe too soon.
Yeah, I mean, I could see bringing Shield Shatter back, right? Like, make Shield Shatter great again, fine.
Title Revenant.
But
Title Revenant, that can go back to 5/8, right? It's not gonna hurt nobody.
I do wonder at what point they're just like, well, but this is too many different things, right? Like, some things probably could go back, but why bother? Because they want to make sure it's impactful, and I don't know that putting Title Revenant back is going to do anything.
I mean,
and there's also
Voyage,
there's
they
also
buffed
the matter,
17 cards.
Oh, I guess that's true. Maybe it will be.
There's also the matter, we don't know what's coming in the mini set, right? Like, if there's like like relics, I think are pretty safe because like that's like just from the lore we know there's only 3 relics, right? So like there's probably not much else coming there. So like go ahead and buff those.
They could make a new one. They could make one up.
Like
it's Hearthstone. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, and I'm fairly convinced, and this might be copium, that we're getting like the equivalent power level of Jackpot for Thief Priest in the mini set, because like we had Swift Scale Trickster and like nothing to do with it in base Barons, and then we got Jackpot, and then we had Jackpot Rogue. I'm pretty convinced that's coming, which is why I'm not saying like Harvester of Envy or I mean, I guess Identity Theft is fine. It's when you get to play it, it's a decent card. But yeah, like we don't know if there's like a risky skipper coming in the mini set, right? Like hopefully not actual risky skipper.
Oh my god! So I built Enrage in duels as well, and I was just like, oh, no skipper. How do I do this?
Yeah, Skipper's a good card. Believe it or not.
I'm missing.
Yeah.
Can we
It's
bust
a lot.
Conqueror's banner?
No.
You can. I don't know how you would, but it is impossible to make that card worse. So it's whatever change you make will probably make it better. It might even be a buff to make it cost more because then it can find another copy of itself and actually win the recruit. I don't know. But the mini set will have another wave of balance changes 2 weeks before it, so you don't need to worry too much about that because this is going to be the balance change before the point 2 changes, which is the BG stuff, and then in another month after that we will get another wave of balance changes, and then 2 weeks after that we get the mini set. If they need to nerf something 2 weeks before the mini set, they can. They don't need to hit it now. They can wait. So I would much rather have a lighter touch on the nerfs now and then buffs. I mean, I don't want things to get crazy, but like there should be a warrior deck we can play. They could easily revert some control warrior stuff and probably make an enrage warrior card or two better. I don't know how you would do it. There's got to be some way to make enrage warrior more exciting. There's got to be some way.
I mean, maybe it's just okay now that like school teachers just kind of worse, right?
For control warrior?
Yeah, because
Control warrior
Conquer-
is dealing with a very different world now than it was before. Original control warrior at the peak of its power never had to face Renathal decks. Never had to deal with all that extra junk. It never had to deal with Denathrius, never had to deal with Insatiable Devourer. Like, it's the amount of threat density and disruption there is now is so huge that I do not know if original pre-nerf control warrior would even be that powerful.
And if you leave Nelly alone, which I'm sure they will, like we're not talking about reverting Nelly like ever, right?
Yes,
then maybe
correct.
maybe it's okay. Yeah.
If you put every other card except Nelly back, it would probably be fine because then we're still just not coin flipping for Angry Cows.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at the first buff patch of Voyage. Now, keep in mind, this was not the first patch of Voyage. It's very unusual for a first patch to have buffs, but that's what this meta needs more than anything else. But outside of the 3 nerfs in that patch, which were Drekthar, thank goodness, Multi-Strike, and Dragonbane Shot, there was Z-Lag stocks dealt more damage, Harpoon Gun, Pet Collector, Ajaran Saber and Sunken Saber, Blackwater Behemoth, Whirlpool, Shadowcloth Needle, Serpent Wig, Tooth of Nefarian, SI7 Smuggler, Wildpaw Knoll, Test Greymane, Hench Clan Burglar, Syricus Cultist, Drag Below, Ajaran Scavenger, Sunken Scavenger, and Bloodscent Vilefin were all buffed in the same patch. Not all of those had impact, but it was worth trying, and they're willing to just, like, see what happens. And this meta, like, those bottom decks averaging 30-something% win rates, you need to help them directly in multiple ways for them to get above a 37% global win rate. Like, the goal is to raise their win rate 13%. That does not happen from just nerfing around them. You need to give them a boost.
Yeah.
And I guess if you look at the buffs, and this is I'm going to go out with one last like way out there, prediction that I don't think will happen, right? But like when you look at the buffs that they did, they were targeting Colossals, right? They buffed G-Lag and they buffed Blackwater Behemoth, right? Because they wanted all the classes to have playable Colossals.
It's like how they buffed Heroes and Alterac too. They did the same thing.
So what are the cards in this set? The locations, right? We already talked about Relic Vault. What if they made Sanguine Depths Whirlwind the board? So do 1 damage to a minion, deal 1 damage to all minions, give a minion +1 attack.
Oh, you're saying every time you use it?
Yeah. So you use it, you give a minion +1 attack, and you whirlwind the board.
I didn't know. I didn't think about that before, and I want it right now. I would like that right now, please. Because that is actually the fixed Iceblood Garrison, right? That was always what we talked about with Iceblood Garrison. We wanted to do it when we wanted to, because it was really awkward at both start of turn and end of turn. But when I wanted is great. That's actually kind of hot.
And the Hunter Ace list ran 1 Iceblood Garrison, and I tried running a couple, and that was how you had your really big Anima Extractor turns. Because you would set up Garrison the turn before, and then you would go Anima Extractor, ideally a second one, play the thing that makes 3 taunts, and then Whirlwind, and you would get another Whirlwind at the end of the turn. So any way that you can set up sort of at least 2 Whirlwinds, you get your good value. But it's hard to do that right now, because it's basically Man the Cannons, Iceblood Garrison, and actual Whirlwind.
Yeah. And I mean, like, if you think back to, like, before we had Risky Skipper, right? There was that 2/2 weapon with the Battle Cry and Death Rattle whirlwind the board.
Blood Razor.
Yeah. So, like, that was kind of, like, that kind of behaves kind of like a Sanguine Depths on cooldown, right? Where you had, like, you could do it on successive turns, but you wouldn't necessarily, right? So, and you could do it when you wanted to. So maybe that's the way you do that. Because I mean, like, G-Lag from 1 to 2 was a big deal, right? And Blackwater Behemoth to 7. I mean, that's an 8/10 for 7 with upside that they made it 7, right? So, I could see maybe something like that.
I would be interested. I do think it would be a little weird where you drag an arrow and then it whirlwinds,
Yeah.
because you still have to target the attack, but it's a
You
sacrifice
have
I'm
barb
willing to
nets
make.
and things like that are weird
That's-
too.
That's fine. It would make Iceblood Garrison look worse, but that card doesn't need any help. I think that'd be fascinating, and yeah, it would definitely help. It's when Enrage Warrior works, it's so frustrating because when you have a good game with it, you're like, this is a thing, this is a deck, and then you have a game where you draw your cards in the wrong order and you get board cleared one time. It's like, all right, guess that's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and there are other things they could do. I think Palin's pretty close. I don't think you need to buff much, but they need to do something. I don't know what.
Great Hall is fine. Great Hall
Yeah.
is fine when you play it.
Great Hall is a good card. Countess Invitations are pretty obviously, you can make those cheaper. I don't know what else to do for
By
Paladin.
the way, I don't know that this needs anything, but I think just by nature of removing recursive freezes, I mean, Mage is still going to have them, but Totem Shaman, I played a bit. And those cards are real. Like, because you now have not just Anchored Totem, but Stone Right, you can do a Totem Shaman with Schooling, where it's like if you get Anchored Totem or Stone Right, those give you your huge power level, but additionally just being able to amalgam, and the only neutral totem you can hit is Sinstone, and then you're gonna get the good stuff, right? Like you can get another extra Gigantotems, extra Manatide if you want, extra Flame Tongue. Flame Tongue really good right now with board stuff. I mean, we could put Flame Tongue back to 0/3. I would have no complaints. But that actually, like, it is not a good meta for it, and I went 50-50 with that deck. It felt like there was something there.
I'm curious where the ripples in the pond would end up landing here, because there are a lot of strategies that are close, but may just not line up. And also, I think it would be a little spooky to buff Shaman cards, but yeah, the Totem cards are not the ones that
This
are
is what I
problematic.
mean. Like, if you nerf the other Shaman, maybe, particularly removing having so much freeze, then maybe people gravitate towards something like a Totem Shaman because it's not clear of this, oh, this is the best Shaman, I should just do that Shaman.
Can you actually get through 40 health if you actually get to attack with your stuff most turns?
Indeed.
Right? Like, that's the question. Because, like, it's 40 health and, oh, by the way, your board is stuck most of the game. So that, and I mean, there's still going to be things like Primordial Wave that can get in the way of it, but I mean, we've seen with Warlock, you can get there if you can actually attack with your board. But Totem Shaman needs a couple more turns to ramp up than Warlock does.
And finally, this is where I'm supposed to tell you how to buff Rogue. This is where I'm supposed to do that. I need to think of a way to do this that does not involve buffing Miracle Rogue, because I don't want that deck to be better. I don't want mine Rogue to be better. But for better or worse, the package in this set that needs help from Rogue is Secret Rogue.
Do we have to help it? Do we really?
The secrets are so bad, Steve. They are so terrible. Kidnap is bad for the person playing it. Maybe Kidnap can just counter battle cries the first time. Maybe it can silence buffs. Maybe it can do anything other than helping my opponent when they play their cards. Because right now, Kidnap
is kind of crazy.
Kidnap benefits my opponent because they just get a Reckless Apprentice back and it's like, all right, that was actively bad for me.
Yeah, like here's a free Zola. Enjoy.
Yeah,
it's not golden, but you'll deal.
There have been multiple times where I've been happy to play into a Kidnap.
That card needs to not suck for the person casting the Kidnap. Hulkias needs to do, like, literally anything. If you want to make the new rogue cards playable, I guarantee you no Miracle Rogue player is going to look at these secret cards, no matter how good they are, and say, I want to put this in my deck. You're safe. High-level pro players are never going to be like, this double cross card is where I want to be. They don't. They super don't. So you can make Kidnap better. You can make Hulkias a thing. I don't know how you do it, but they have a lot of bandwidth with Secret Rogue to push it and not break it. There's a lot of room
just
there.
Take the if you control a secret off the text, right? Just it resummons when you trigger a secret.
That's interesting.
How many you're running? How many secrets are you running?
5 or 6, but also you can run Sketchy Stranger if you want.
But you can also like trip multiple, right? And it's not because the death rattle, when your next secret, right? So, when your next secret triggers. So instead of storing it within a secret, it's when your next secret triggers. The death rattle would have to go off again before it would trigger again, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I want 4 mana 5/4 on the board forever. But maybe, like, the game designers have smart ideas on how to do that. I don't know what they're going to do, because I don't know how you make that deck palatable to people that want to play Rogue, but that is where they're going to push it, because otherwise they wouldn't have made these cards. So they're going to find some way to make the secrets better. If Kidnap just, like, didn't screw me as the person casting the Kidnap, that's a great start. A great start.
Yeah. Well, I'm very confused by the fact that we don't have any secrets in core. I guess it's because to have secrets in core without having made any yet, they need to have 3, right? Same thing as you were saying with.
Yep. Or it'd need to be secret stuff in the first set, which they didn't want to do this time around, because they didn't have room, because they had to make like 8 pirates or whatever. Which also, by the way, designers, you don't have to do that next time. I'd rather you not give us secrets, but if the choice is between like partial secret package or 8 pirates, I guess I'll do secrets. I'm not happy about it.
I'm just going to say, as the non-Rogue player, that Rogue has been busted in every set since at least Galakron. Right? So, it's okay. And probably before Galakron.
I think that is true. It was busted in Ashes. It was not busted in Ashes. It was fine in Ashes.
Didn't we have like a weapon rogue in Ashes?
That was a set where we were doing Skipper, Smith, Bloodsworn. Like, Rogue was not dominant. Rogue was okay. They nerfed Galakron Rogue by the end of that expansion. In what was after Ashes, Skolo, like, Rogue was pretty good in Skolo. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. And that was the set where they printed Secret Passage. So until that rotated, then Rogue was not bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And you had the Nitro Boost Poison Days, and
after they printed Secret Passage, Rogue was good. We don't have to belabor that point. We understand. 1 mana draw 4, good enough.
So like Rogue can take a get some mid cards.
We did, but I'm just saying, if you were the designer balancing the set, the place that you buff is the new cards that aren't seeing play, and there are 6 of those in the set, and they all have the word secret on them. So I'm guessing that is probably where they end up putting the power, as opposed to the cards that make a bunch of 30 power daggers for Draka. Probably don't need to make that better, and they probably don't want to make that more consistent.
I mean, do they make Private Eye a spider tank?
Maybe that's the best one already. That's the best secret card already. It's like, they could make it better. I'm not going to be mad about it. If they make the recruit a bunch of secrets card better, they give us a better Face Stalker. But that's not where they need to put the power. They need to make the secrets not suck. Because I don't want to recruit things that are bad for me, which Kidnap actively is.
I mean, Sticky Situation is fine. Double Cross is fine.
Make eye contact when you say that. Go ahead. Sticky Situation is a card that if I got it for free, I'd be like, if I didn't have to pay mana, and I didn't have to draw it. Okay. Which Private Eye kind of does, except I have to play a 4 mana 3/4. I don't know.
I mean, we play Galloping Savior. I know
we recruited Galloping Savior.
Well, we had to play it the games where we didn't recruit it.
We didn't have to play it. It was fine, but we recruited that and Counterspell out of our deck. And they also both cost 1.
Yeah.
and had taunt.
So you just play Bone Spike and it costs 0. You're fine. What's your problem?
I want to bone spike good cards, not bad cards. Anyways, okay. So they'll figure out what they do with Rogue. I'll figure it out. It's gonna be a secret buff. I'm glad they're doing that if they do that, but that's not what I'm looking for anyways. But it's fine. It's fine. So that was news. That's news. Hour 19 in. We still have to do explanations. Let's go to tournaments now.
It's the grand tournament!
So we didn't have any qualifiers this weekend. It was the weekend right after the new set was released. We did have Solary Party, which was an invitational in France that a number of the European players attended. There was a round of 16. Fino ended up winning that, both while also casting it on his channel in English. He wasn't casting the games he was playing, but you get the idea. Ended up bringing the Ramp Druid without Celestial Alignment. This looks like a 30 card control Shaman, because we hadn't gotten the Habu Gabu deck kind of got popular like Friday into Saturday, and this was starting at the beginning of the weekend. So we didn't have the 40 card deck that we have now, but a 30 card control Shaman. We had a Skeleton Mage, Spooky Mage, I guess we're supposed to call it. I've given up on the Pumpkins thing. I'm sorry. I gave it a good try. And then Face Hunter. And different variations of those throughout the weekend. It was a fun tournament to watch. They had they had some like party games in the middle. There was a very intense game of Connect 4 that Otsuna won. That was fun to watch. It was a good event to watch. And if you were watching in the French channel, they also gave you a couple of packs as drops. Kind of a bit of a foreshadowing for what we're going to see in the Masters Tour this weekend. But I would not expect to see these decks in the Masters Tour. But we do have a Masters Tour. And we also have a caster for the Masters Tour on this podcast right now, which is very exciting. So Edelweiss has gotten announced. Yes, was it yesterday? It was yesterday, right? Time is meaningless now.
I think so, because
yeah.
I mean, basically, it was confirmed, on my end yesterday, and Sottle kind of basically announced it since it was relating to him. Obviously, normally Sottle would have been casting. He needed a break, and they were able to get me on very short notice. So here I am. Yeah.
So that'll be fun. I'm expecting you to name drop me at least as often as Sottle did. So just fair warning. So it is standard Masters Tour format, 4-deck best of 5 conquests with a ban. This is on NA time. This, I believe, I'm looking at the thing, and it is NA time, right? So it's starting around like 10 or 11.
9 a.m.
In Eastern and a little bit earlier Pacific. You will be able to get YouTube drops. You'll be able to earn 2 packs if you're watching. It should be very interesting. I will have data on offcurve.com/Masters Tour. Hopefully by lunchtime tomorrow, depending on how bad my meetings are. I'll probably end up updating it while I'm eating lunch, but we will have data. We will get to see what the competitive meta looks like, and we'll get to see if anybody's been hiding anything under their hat for the past week, because there have been some very busy practice groups for the past week, and so that'll be a fun event. It would be a fun event even if Edel wasn't casting, but even more so knowing that you are. So that'll be fun to watch. So you should watch that for both reasons. And
I need to be up at 9. I guess for viewers, it's not until 11 a.m.
Yeah, I mostly need to know when the brackets close so I can go get the decks, but that's probably like 30. So watch that, and there's not a whole lot else to say because we don't really know what's going to happen. There were a few Lobby Legends qualifiers for the next one, but I believe that's after the 0.2 patch, if I remember correctly. So we'll talk about that when it comes up. But yeah, we can talk about Shaman. How about that?
Works for me. For now. And we'll see what happens to our Macaw friends. And yeah, I think Aber specifically said to the competitors for Lobby Legends, the MMR reset will be before the end of this month, along with the patch. So my current projected date on that is 2 weeks after the 16th, is the 30th, technically before the end of the month, not by a lot, but that is likely when I'm expecting the Battlegrounds changes to come. We'll see what happens, though. All right, let's go talk about Shaman.
So this deck took a little bit of time to pick up and then has just become everywhere. I don't know what it's like at different ranks, but certainly this is a deck I'm seeing a lot. Earlier when I checked, it was 25% of my opponents for the week, which is, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that's a lot.
Too much?
I don't know.
Too many?
Yeah, 24%, I guess I'm at now, but yeah. It's powerful, and I have heard from some people that it can be kind of confusing. I think it's just, it has a lot of lines available, and not everyone's brain is used to all of those different lines and then picking the optimal one, etc., and sort of planning multiple turns ahead. It has your Murloc package involving Clownfish, Flurgle, Amalgams, Cookie, who is just a rock star against Face Hunter, the Ravagers, of course, and Mutinous. It has Famished Fools, which I think shine in this deck, but have been better in general than most people expected.
Yeah.
The Infuse 4 does feel a bit steep, but also it's draw 3 in neutral, and just with the way that sort of the meta shaped up, I've seen it. I mostly see it in Shaman, but a couple other brews people have done do have Famished Fool, and it feels good.
It's not widely played. I think that
No.
there was kind of a fluctuation. There was a brief period where it was in every Theorycraft, where people were just fooling around, so to speak. And we pulled back from that. It doesn't go in Imp Zoo. It doesn't go in Wild Seed Hunter. It doesn't even go in most of the Spooky Mage decks, though you can. But you have Multicaster, which you'd usually rather do.
Right.
But it does make sense here, and there are some lists where like you can try it out, and it's not embarrassing to include.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a
but I
nice...
mean, you need the draw with the 40 cards, and like it's
yeah.
one of the more efficient draw engines, other than like Dwarlock Ravager, which gets you Murlocs, so you don't necessarily want the Murlocs all the time, but you want to improve your future draws, which is where Gorlock Ravager helps you. But you kind of, if you don't have it, because I think there was a period of time where we were trying out like taking those out for like Crud, what the hell is the name of it?
Crud Caretakers, where there was
Crud
one
Caretakers.
Famished Fool, and because the Murloc Homes in the original list had to go. So,
it had to go. Yeah.
Right. So double Crud Caretaker was attempted. I think people just landed on Okani. Surprisingly, just Okani good.
Or Finley. There's another list that's up at the top of the stats that's running Finley.
Oh, Little Finley. Yeah. But I would only call Famished Fool efficient when you're also running Muck Pools. That is the main reason why we can get away with 4 5-mana understated draw cards, is because they don't stay as 5 drops for very long. They get evolved very quickly.
Yeah, and we're running Schooling too, right? So that helps power them pretty easily.
Yeah. Well, and same thing with Primal Dungeoneer. I think we'll get into this, but this deck generally, it plays for tempo. I mean, I think what makes it so unique, and as you said, feels like Quest Shaman of old, the Battlecry Quest Shaman, is it is a slower kind of control-ish deck that is very minion heavy. Because even though you don't have that doubling Battlecry thing, you're running mostly minions. So those minions do a lot of work, and you play for tempo with things like Clownfish, Dungeoneer, and those 5s because of Muck Pools. Muck Pools just lets you have this great curve where you play something like Clownfish on 3, get a 4-drop. And it's gonna be better than 3-2, it's not always going to be great, but sometimes they are really great. And then after that, you then can go Ravager, Muck Pools evolve that, or a lot of times you'll play Command of Neptulon, take a couple trades, and then evolve a thing. Of course, the big high roll, the huge thing, in terms of just very obvious, we run Wild Paw Null. If you turn that into a different 10-drop, it's usually nuts.
Goldshire Null, not Wild Paw Null.
Sorry, I always make that. Yeah, Goldshire Null turns into an 8/8 rush, Death Rattle, make another 8/8 rush, or a 12/12. Deathwing is just there. You can't hit the Colossal, you can't hit Neptulon because of the whole, you can't evolve into Colossal's rules, thank God. But you can hit Raid Boss Onyxia. Lochalar. Sometimes you get Sea Giant and you can't attack right away, boo-hoo.
Yeah.
There are 6 10-drops, right? There are Sea Giant.
I think it's slightly more than that now.
Well, but you can't evolve into Colossal, so I think it is 12/12, Noel, 8/8 Rush Wind Fury, 8/8 neither of those, also 8/8 neither of those. I think it's that 4 times. Onyxia.
You have Denathrius.
Yeah,
So
Denathrius,
like a
that's
10/10 a 10/10 lifesteal is a valid body.
Yeah.
I evolved into that twice in my hero match today against a Face Hunter, and I did win that game. The 2 free 10/10 lifesteals did get me there.
Yeah, the low roll is re-rolling Goldshire Null. That's the low roll.
Yeah. Looking at 10s, yeah, so there's Stoneborn General, Denathrius, Sea Giant, Onyxia, Lochalar, Goldshire Null, Deathwing Destroyer, Gigantotem. So, I believe...
Gigantotem's like kind of a low roll just because it doesn't do anything. But
there are 2 8/8s that sit there. There's a 5/4 Rush. There's an 8/8 Rush, 8/8 Rush Wind Fury, 10/10 Lifesteal, 8/8 Rush Death Rattles, make another 8/8 Rush, and then 12/12. So...
Yeah, I think Stoneborn General is typically the best hit. But they're all pretty great.
Yeah, I had a game as Wig Priest where I Pelagos wigged on 4, and they responded with playing Null into the General, and I lost that game because they traded off my Pelagos, and then they had another 8/8 on board, and that was all she wrote. Yeah.
So, in addition to the location, of course, the minimal spells you have are Schooling for those piranhas. They're great for clears. They fill up your hand. They infuse your stuff. And yeah, usually Schooling just helps you to reduce Goldshire Null. So great synergies all around. Then you've got Primordial Wave and Command of Neptulon as the only spells, as nature spells. So the Dungeoneer has higher odds of drawing Fleet Breaker or especially Snowfall Guardian. Sometimes you hit Amalgam of the Deep, but that's fine. And yeah, just all the ways of evolving your stuff. This is why I think the deck will not be dead even if you remove Macaw. It would be worse, but I don't think they would be dead because so much of the tempo and high power plays comes from Muck Pools and Primordial Wave. Just doing value trades and then evolving your stuff to get rid of the downside from value trading.
Yeah, and Wild Paw Cavern is starting to make its way back in
it
some
is.
lists.
Makes total sense to me. Like, if you draw Caverns off Dungeoneer, are you really that sad that you have Caverns on 4? I don't think you're that sad.
Yeah, and this is like the circle of life, right? Like this is we've already been through this once before with like Bolnero TK or the other the other kinds of shamans like this where we're just relying on Snowfall Guard or Burn Shaman. Burn Shaman was the other one where the original list didn't have Wild Paw Cavern because they wanted to make sure to hit elementals off or nature spells so we could draw elementals. And then eventually Wild Paw Cavern just made it back in because that card was too good.
Yeah.
Though
You want to talk about value trades.
I don't see a Renathal list that's performing particularly well with Wild Paw Caverns. I see a couple that have one copy. They are smaller sample size, but also generally performing worse.
Okay, well.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some high finishes recently. that have had Wildpaw Caverns in there. So
I mean,
My
Fino tweeted and
understanding
said
was-
put Wildpaw back
yeah.
in the deck, but statistically from
Yeah.
what we have, we don't have much,
That's probably what
but
I
it is
thought.
a little bit worse.
yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out. Although I imagine it's going to get changed, and then that'll reset the data anyway. But, yeah, Sin Strider I mentioned earlier. You just do that with stuff in this deck, and it's gross and or hilarious.
Yeah, don't be
Clownfish-
afraid to do like Kael'thas Piranha thing. That's fine.
Yeah, because I mean that's just like cheating three mana off of something, or up to 3 mana off of something.
I mean, I've gone times where I used it just to get Glug down a turn early against a class
Glug!
that can't really do much about that, and maybe you trade one thing off so they can't kill the Glug right away, and Glug just ends games if it sticks around. You get to play Command of Neptulon and make trades, and he hits in for an additional 10. That is great. I think my highlights of Kael'thas Sin Strider plays have been few different situations. One, if you save a discount from Clownfish so that you can have a 0 mana Murloc, you can Kael'thas on curve. And this is most important against something like a Face Hunter, something that's beating you down. So you can get down an early Glug, or an early Insatiable Devourer that's been infused, or an early Sire Denathrius. So against a Face Hunter, I went Kael'thas, Amalgam for no value, but it costs 0 from an earlier Clownfish. And then Sire Denathrius. Wasn't infused that much. I think it maybe did 10, but it cleared most of their board, and most importantly, was a 10/10 lifesteal on the board. So lots of power plays you can make by knowing when you want to save a discounted Murloc to go with Kael'thas. Sometimes that allows you to get sort of 2 0 mana things from Kael'thas, and that's where you get into the territory of doing like Brand Denathrius or Brand Denathrius Macaw, all kinds of excessive damage things.
Yeah,
I think I got a Brand Bolner.
Kael'thas Bolner Devourer is another thing you could do. Don't do it with Brand, because it targets the same target and nothing happens the second time. But Bolner does his own targeting, so you could and it only targets enemy minions. So you can go Kael'thas Bolner Devourer and clear board.
It won't ever screw you because it says enemy.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another reason, like Devourer and then doing Macaw on Devourer functions so well since it's only enemies.
But you want to take that
course,
away. You want to take that away.
I do. Yeah, and it'll be okay. It of course runs Theotar. Like we've mentioned, you don't want a Macaw, Theotar, or Bolner generally because you won't get to pick. But you can still brand Theotar, and that lets you pick twice.
And you can give them a Piranha a lot of the time.
Most of the time. I mean,
that's
schooling is just so funny in this deck for that reason.
My favorite thing to do lately has been giving them a Prince Renathal. You may have my Spider Tank. His usefulness was concluded at the start of the game. Feel free to employ him.
Yeah, and I mean, even sometimes giving them a Clownfish is fine. Like, they're not going to use it. I mean, you would rather have that, but when you get screwed by Theotar picking things that aren't Piranhas, like, sometimes that's okay. There are other things that you can give that are not backbreaking usually, but you want to kind of know what you're likely to give. Like, if you have 3 Piranhas in your hand, you're more than likely to at least hit one of them, but you want to know what you're likely to give away when you do it. And you generally want to do that when your opponent's hand is small and they've been holding cards on the left for a while, or that they've just played something like a Chapter Cold-Tooth Mine, or you've triggered a Talon, which some of these decks run. And know that there's a likelihood that you could hit that. And sometimes you whiff, but you want to make sure that you're reasonably sure, and the less cards your opponent has in their hand, the more likely you are to hit what you're looking for.
Yep. Though also, if you're not sure, if they have 9 mana, probably worth looking.
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna lose to Denathrius, and they have 9 mana right now, and if your deck tracker says the card on the left side of their hand has been there since turn 0 or 1, probably just put it out there. Go ahead, try it.
Yeah, I wish that there was something in Tracker that said like how many minions have died for each player, so that you could know like what is the cap on damage. I know they couldn't tell you how much is infused because then you know they have it. But if you just know how many have died on each side, then you can figure out how at risk you are.
I mean, I guess you could. There's like a graveyard plug-in for deck tracker that would just tell you everything that's died from both sides.
I just want to count.
I know you want. I know you don't want to. You don't want to do math. I get it, but you know, like there are ways to get there. Is what I'm saying.
There are ways, but it would be. I don't know how they do it, but I do wish there was some way to like press a button when it's like, now I want to start tracking right now, and then it just counts all the minions that died for them at that point. But that's pretty involved.
Yeah, I mean, besides all that, this Shaman-ish was around before, right? So some of the things you'll be familiar with. Of course, you can do Clownfish into Firemancer Flurgle and just, clear a board that way. Little consecration deal. Usually I find it's hard to get more than 2. It kind of depends how much mana you have at what point of the game you're doing it, but you can typically get 2 or 3 for a pretty solid clear. Primordial Wave. Honestly, if you do a full like Clownfish pop-off, that can be a great thing to do afterwards because the Clownfish are 3s, so making them into 4s is probably going to be better than those 3 2s. It also just, it's the reason why it's hard to play Naga Priest right now.
Yeah, it sure is. And it's
Great
good
against
it's good against Warlock too. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's good against ramming mounts.
Skeletons.
It's good against a bunch of things. It's a solid enough card that we use defensively, but also it can give us bodies. The reason that you see Muck Pool so high in the Mulligan stats, and Primordial Wave's pretty solid too. We often have a Primordial Wave because of Dungeoneer. Don't be afraid to just bump your 3-drop with the Muck Pools. You play a Primal Dungeoneer, go ahead and bump it. You got a board of a few things, they get a board of a few things. Primordial Wave is going to make your stuff better and their stuff works because that's what it says in the card. And there's a lot of minion buffing going on in the current format, and we play a lot of random 4s and 5s that aren't great outside of the value they provide, and then we evolve them. So don't be afraid to get incremental value.
And the other important thing with skeletons is, yes, you get rid of the death rattle, and you don't have to deal with that, but also you reduce the amount of damage that Kel'Thuzad's going to do. So that's the other thing, because anything that is transform will not die as a skeleton. It will not count towards Kel'Thuzad when they eventually play it.
Yeah.
And in terms of Mulligan things, I think you still don't want to keep it against something like Imp Warlock or Face Hunter, but Sire Denathrius is the highest Mulligan win rate card. It's kept at 65%. I think basically if you know you're against something that's not going to try and smork you down, it's worth it to keep Sire just because it is the thing you're infusing ad nauseum, right? So if you can play it on 10 for a lot, that's going to be very powerful. I think particularly for this deck because you're rewarded for playing it right on 10, even if it doesn't kill them, as long as you save a Macaw. Again, that's something I would like to see changed, but if they don't, that is one of the reasons this deck is so good at playing Sire Denathrius is because they can just do it for a bit to keep themselves alive and clear your stuff and do you a bunch of damage and then kill you the next turn with Bolner Macaw or Brand Macaw, either one. So Denathrius, very high. Schooling is the other one, always keep. You don't really want to pull it off Dungeoneer anyway, but Dungeoneer is generally also a keep. Sleepbreaker, solid on curve. Muck Pools, you already mentioned. And then I would say Goldshire Null and Clownfish are the other ones for me. It's just, you're not always going to reduce Goldshire Null super quickly unless you have the schooling, but it's a good rush even if you don't evolve it, and it's one of the ways you can just high roll early to snowball the game.
Though I would say Null is more likely like on the coin and with a reasonable hand.
It has a good rate generally.
I always keep it. I 100% of the time keep it. It is the only non-redundant card in the deck. Everything else has some kind of redundancy. The only evolve scam that you can do is with Knoll, and evolve scams are good, so I always keep one. I don't think I keep two unless I'm on the coin and I have a good hand already, but I always keep one if I have access to it.
Something that I like to do that I don't, probably isn't correct, but if I know I'm up against something that is typically slower, such as, a mage or whatever, I like keeping a Ravager or a Fool, not both, one or the other. And if I pick between the two, I keep Ravager. But especially with pools, because then you're not playing a 4/3 on 5. It's going to turn into a 6, and that's much better. I just prefer to have that draw available. I think it's even more of a keep if you do already have a Clownfish, because then obviously you're playing it the following turn. Cookie is a keep against the Vase decks.
Yeah. And Wave against the decks that make big things.
Yeah, against Priest, probably keep Wave. Against...
Yeah, and against Warlock, probably too.
Yeah.
I mean, they go, Shipment on 1, and then Library on 2, Library 2 with the coin of the 1/3 that gets bigger, and then you just wave it and you at least deal with that board. So, anything that's going to blow you out with like a gigantic minion, you can't deal with it. I mean, even if they boon like the Naga Priest, I've had because the Kyrians scale with mana cost with their stats.
Yep.
I've had a 10-drop Kyrian devolved into an Ickman, and I was extremely salty afterward. So yeah, you're gonna make a big thing, but sometimes you're not, and you just do that anyway. But yeah, Wave is very important against certain decks. And I think the other tip in general with this deck, watch your hand size.
Yeah.
That's the one thing you really need to be careful of, because it's very easy to get into a situation where you draw and then you have where you think you have enough mana to play something else, and everything else that you're going to play is going to put another card in your hand. And inevitably you're going to burn a card that you need, because burning a card isn't always the worst, and sometimes you do it anyway, but like, just be aware that you're going into that mindfully, and you're not just like, oh, I'm just going to draw with my Famish Fool, now I have 10 cards in my hand, and all the cards that I can play are going to put something else in my hand. Like, just be careful that you're not doing it without considering that that's something that you're okay with before you start the turn.
I'm usually only okay with it if I already have Denathrius.
Right. And it's always Denathrius or Kael'thas, one or the other. Almost every time, that's just science. That will just happen.
Any final comments?
I think we hit the major notes. What are the bad matchups here? Right now, not very many things. Historically speaking, green decks have been bad for blue decks. But as of right now, Demon Hunter not a thing. And the Quest Hunter matchup surprisingly close. Still, I think, slightly favored for the Quest Hunter, but like, it's not super favored. But also, like, if I look at last 7 days at Legend, it's 52-48 for the Quest Hunter.
It's reasonable. You have a puncher's chance on either side of that matchup.
It's way closer than it used to be, which was in Bioluminescent Shaman could not beat Quest Hunter. Like, it just didn't happen. The previous, like, Murloc Control Shaman could not beat Quest Hunter. It's the extra 10 life really matters. But I would still rather
and
be
the Quest
Hunter.
Hunter's also cutting things like Rajnajan to make room for the Wild Seeds, right? So that's cutting down on a little bit of the damage potential from, like, the burst potential.
It's mostly just that you can play 10 life. You can get 10 more life as a Shaman now. But Big Spell Mage and Phylactery Warlock are both technically favored, but these are both mid-40s, and also Phylactery Warlock is not a deck. But Big Spell Mage is also slightly favored here, because you can just make a bunch of big stuff and then Starfish it because your stats aren't buffs, and then you kill them. But you're still talking
and they can't
about dealing with
devolve
40
it.
life.
Like, if they devolve it, they have another problem.
Correct. But it's still, we're talking 53-47-ish, something like that. If you look at the last few days, it might be slightly more in the favor of the Big Spell Mage, but not by a lot. There are very, very few actually bad matchups here, and they are not hard counterers. there are no hard counters to this deck. There are close matchups that are slightly unfavored, but there are no hard counters.
And I mean, like, the matchups that are good for it are not necessarily overwhelmingly good either. And you can low roll. Like, this is not 3 mana from the Depths Control Warrior with Unnerved Nelly, right? Like, it's not to that level. It's not that dominant, but it's good enough that you can go into any matchup and feel like you have a plan and you can win those games. But you also can lose a lot of those matchups because sometimes just you don't find the draw, or you whiff on an evolve, or something happens, and you just kind of sit there with like when the deck's not working, you look at your hand and you look at it, it's like, how do I ever win a game with these cards in my hand? I've got like two fish with sharp teeth and a couple of crappy murlocs and like and you know, I don't know what else. And like, how do I ever win a game with this? But you know, when you're able to build that tempo, you can kind of just start going, and then you get a couple of evolve scams, and sometimes that gets you there.
Yeah.
I would be very curious if anyone has been sitting on a target Shaman lineup. I don't think it's possible. I expect we're going to see a lot of Shaman bans this weekend.
I would expect so too.
But someone might maybe try and fail to target the Shaman.
Finding usually 4 decks is
finding 4 is a big ask. Yeah.
Maybe if it was a qualifier, maybe you could find 3 that were favored.
Shaman's not going to have 100% ban rate, but I am very curious what a target Shaman lineup would look like. Really, really curious, because I cannot envision it. But 100% of players are not going to ban it. So someone's going to have to bring something.
Nearly 100% will bring it, though. So there's high payoff if you do think you found that lineup.
I don't know. Does Boar Priest beat it? Because somebody's going to bring Boar Priest guaranteed.
The sample sizes on HSR are too low, and it is showing that Control Shaman is highly favored. I mean, Theatar is kind of not a card you can beat, right?
Yeah. Well, you do. You keep the amulets in your deck, right? And you just kill off the boars before they can evolve them.
There are a lot of things that get in the way.
Just take Handmaiden, and then you can't draw, or something like that.
Right. Or run them out of Pyromancers and the Devours. You can never leave a boar in play because of Primordial Wave. There are just... It seems pretty difficult.
I feel like Pocket Train will figure out a way to make that happen. But
I'm sure Pocket Train will figure out a way to make that happen for Pocket Train. I do not know what other people who are not Pocket Train
still be banning Shaman. Bringing Boar Priest, right?
Yeah. Apparently Pocket Train is bringing Renathal Boar Priest.
That sounds...
That's...
I don't
mean,
know.
Cathedral's a card, sure. Okay.
Cathedral Samuro, I guess.
Sure.
Let's look at... I'm going to pull up this deck list real quick because, you know... There's,
I would like to live in the world that Pocket Train lives in.
There's 2 Devout Dungeoneers in the deck.
Okay.
There...
Do we run Cleric of Anchi?
No.
Okay.
There's 2 Lighted Burns.
Yeah.
Okay. Good card.
I don't know. There's a Theatar.
It's pretty good at killing gigantic imps, yeah.
It's...
Wait,
I would not...
So you can steal back what they stole from you?
Correct. Yes. The old double switcheroo. Yeah. This looks terrible. I'm sure Pocket Train will do great. So...
Yeah.
I think that we're going to wind down here. But thank you so much, everyone. We have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website, coinconcede.com, where you can find our contact info, our show notes, our patron information. You can monetarily support us at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinconcede. If you like some swag, head over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Doge Decay, Proby1, Crash Cap, Beef Squatch, David P, Faded Black Walu, Jeremy T, Bottle Caps, and Lucky. Thanks to our subs during the show, Gator993, Ure, and Cakes Infamous. Coin Concedes, Wicked Good, go first.
So I'm going to coin concede to Lesmos, who, an old casting partner of mine. We haven't casted together in a long time. He's the athletic director over at our Arcadia University. now. Good guy, and he posted this thing about a week ago. Just like he's starting a wellness channel in their team Discord, and he had this really great graphic set that just said, "Do your dailies. Get outside, move, hydrate, eat, sleep, and connect." And that just kind of resonated with me for whatever reason. So that's just kind of good life advice. So coin concede to him. That was it hit me when I kind of needed to see that. So
He's a good dude. I
Yeah.
remember having him at the firesides. I kept trying to get him to send more Arcadia kids over to the firesides that I ran, but it was hard to get them over.
Yeah.
It's he did those songs too, right? Back in the
Yeah,
day.
he did.
He did
He
those
did a
songs.
song about deleting priest or something, I think, and yeah.
I do remember that. Yes, that was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Edelweiss, coin concedes.
So I have a few. I'd like to coin concede to Blizzlet for a couple of things. One, I forgot to mention it last week, but Storm Rage and Tedo helped me with the ridiculous parody shanty I made for the end of previous meta and going into Nathria. I had a good time with that. Didn't end up using Tedo's lines, but I appreciated him doing them all the same. And then they also had me on the podcast earlier this week, so you should definitely go check that out over on Blizzlet. Had a good time talking about the Sandman a little bit, spoiler free, and generally Hearthstone shenanigans. A little bit of interview, and then over on Doctor 3, I also had a little bit of interview action and just hanging out with Donnie Mage Death and Daring Alkaline, who I think the last time I talked with Daring Alkaline was like for when the creators were playing each other or something. What was that? There was some league that was just for
UHL?
UHL.
something like
yeah.
that.
Wow, that's
I
a
could be
throwback.
wrong, but I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
So that was kind of wild. And I think we're gonna get together for a meal sometime because we actually live.
Oh yeah, he's local to you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now that I'm back. And then coin concede to A-Bar, of course, for thinking of me when they needed a sub for Soddle. Really appreciate it.
I am glad that they thought of you. Yeah. The coin concede to Fuzzer Daniel, the most visible duels QA guy. He got a cool opportunity to move over to the QA learning and development team to help teach people how to Q&A better. I think he is a great fit for it. And he says he'll be back to Hearthstone. If that's not the case, Dan, we'll miss you, but congratulations. But if it is, can't wait to see you again. But really, really great opportunity for him, and it'll be great for all the people that are learning from him. Edelweiss, hey, coin concede to you. Congrats on getting back to casting so quickly. Well deserved. And then coin concede to my buddy Garrett. Angry Chicken this week. Garrett's been in the show for 9 years, and he made the decision that it was time for him to move on from the show because he had already really moved on from Hearthstone. Pretty emotional episode. Also a few swears, so don't listen around your kids. Yeah, it was... We were preparing for it internally for a little while, but, it hits different in the moment. So, best of luck, buddy, and, don't be a stranger. And that's gonna do it for this week's episode of Coin Concede. Keep calm and tune in to Edelweiss's casting this weekend. And if you see us on ladder, Coin Concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Right.
Yeah. Light news week. Easy, simple deck, 2-hour show. No.
This was shorter than I
Never
thought it was
fails.
going to be.
Yeah,
I mean,
wow.
we talked about balance, Wicked. That's always long.
Yeah, I know that we played ourselves is what happened.
I was expecting more than 2 hours.
Really?
Yep. We got a hotfix with the complicated rules thing, a specific deck to explain, Master's Tour to lead up, and balance speculation. Like, that's a 2-hour show minimum.
I mean, I think part of it is like some of the basics of Shaman people know from before. And then also probably going to get changed soon.
Yeah. But I mean, like, we could say that with every deck guide, right? Like, every time we go deep on a deck, like, there's probably a balance change, like, a week or two. That's why I stopped doing the written guides that I was doing like around this time last year, because it's just like
It's a
was
lot
like a
harder to make
month's worth
evergreen
of-
constructed content too, because like
Yeah.
deck guides just don't stay relevant for that long.
like it would take me like 3 weeks to a month to write one of those guides, and then like a week later, like, or while I was writing it, like it would get nerfed. And it's like, okay, well, that was great. Like, that was a good use of my time.
Yeah, the Naga Priest guide that we did here is still pretty relevant because that's one of those deck where like the power is in learning how to play it. And so when we get that kind of deck, and this is not too far from that, and I think there's some value in it. But yeah, explaining if we did a deck guide on Baron's Lunacy Mage, draw a Lunacy. After the deck gets nerfed, draw Flow instead. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right, chat.
That's...
Thanks for hanging out. Gonna take the stream down now, and go watch the Masters Tour this weekend. Do it.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.